All right, here with Course Master Leonti Dalis, and this is Coach Dave Vogel giving you the lowdown on the head of the Housatonic. These are where the launching areas are weighted in. You don't want to freeze your feet, so you want to be quick. And then you go downstream to warm up. This is a look downstream toward the starting line from the beach launching area. In the next scene, we will stop here and then we'll take you down there and show you what to do down there. We have left the beach launching area and we're a few hundred meters downstream going down toward the starting line. You'll see this yellow buoy over on our right. You want to keep that to starboard because that is where that marks a sandbar that's it sticks a little bit out into the river. There aren't very many real hazards on this river, so you don't have to worry a lot. But if you see a yellow buoy like this one here, yeah, you don't want to go there because those big, large yellow buoys mark probably a hazard. And the next line, we're going to go down past the start to show you what the warm-up area looks like. And now we've moved a little farther downstream. We are literally right next to the starting line of the race course, which goes upstream. And you'll notice down in the distance there are some buoys marking the center of the river. Those are buoys to keep the practice area separated. We're always in a counterclockwise pattern here, and safety is the main consideration. The buoy lines and almost all of the buoys, with the exception of a small number of buoys that mark the shallow parts where there might be a sandbar, those big yellow buoys, every other buoy should be a buoy that you keep on the port side. You never want to cross the buoy line. That's the main reason here for the buoy line is safety. It's not necessarily always the shortest course to take during the race. That's up to you and or the coxswain to figure out. But going down here, you'll see in the distance there's probably about a 1,200 meter stretch going around the turn where you can warm up. You don't want to get too much farther than that because you'll get out of contact with the race officials. But there's ample room for warm up and there are no real obstructions. And then as you come up, they'll call you up to go through the starting line to buoys right there. And the next piece of this video will be actually on the course. So now we're at the start and we're going to take you through the start. You can see off to the port side, there's a little line of small yellow buoys that goes all the way out to the next turning point. The large orange buoy in the distance, which I'm trying to focus in on. Now that's the first 1,000 meters of the course. And you are well advised to just pick your own course, but when you get to that big orange buoy in the distance, 1,000 meters, that is a reasonably sharp turn to port, and you want to set that up so that you can make that turn to port. Just remember, you never want to cross the buoy line. It should always be on your port side. And we're going to take you onto the course now. So as we come up to the start, we're going to go through the starting buoys. Here they are. We've got Leonti on the controls taking us through. And what we want to do is just sort of head toward that big orange buoy. You can follow as close as you like to the small yellow buoys, you just don't want to cross them. So we're going to speed through this first 1,000 a little bit, give you the sense of where you're going. So in the first 1,000 meters, we're coming back toward the park where we launched from. And the next piece of the video, we will start from that one distant orange buoy that represents the turning point at the end of the first 1,000 of the course. Okay, here we are. We're within about 150 meters of that first port side turn. You can see the yellow buoys off to port, the big turning buoy, and your point, if you need more than that for a coxswain, would be that big brown house up on the hill that you can see in front of us. We're going to go around that turn and we'll see what it looks like heading into the next turn. This is the end of the first 1,000. The start of the next turn is another 1,000 meters away, and we'll show you what that looks like as we go around the turn. Obviously, this buoy is way too big to try to put an oar over it, but it should be visible even to scullers, hopefully, no matter what the glare is like. You notice that we're starting to get a little bit of wind here in the afternoon as we film this. That does, if the wind gets a little stronger, it makes these small buoys hard to see because the chop will obscure them. But right now you can see we've got a pretty nice straight line of yellow buoys that separates the racing lane from the return lane. Plenty of room on both sides for all of that. No real big dangers along in here as long as you're anywhere close to the racing, to the line of little yellow buoys. We're pretty far off of them here in the launch, and as you can see, there's a lot of room. So we're going to go down 1,000 meters to that next big orange buoy in the distance. I think it's in the camera right now, and that's where we will start our only real turn to starboard, and we'll talk about that when we get there. We're going to just zoom down there and let you know. Okay, I hope the wind isn't too much to hear what's going on here. We're coming into this turn to starboard. You'll see there is one dock sticking out on the right, and then you've got the big orange buoy on the left. If you are overtaking a crew here, you should set it up by moving to starboard. Crews being overtaken in this area must yield by moving to port. No matter what, you should never violate the safety of the center line of buoys. And as we get to this turn, you will see that there are some fairly large orange buoys marking that part of the course. The yellow buoy line kind of ends with this big orange buoy, and then we're taking the turn around to the right. So once you clear this dock that's right in front of us now, I advise you not to hit that because it is very solid and it isn't going to move. You can kind of go in pretty close to the shore, taking the turn to starboard. So the best line here again is not out near the buoys, it's kind of on the right-hand side because this is a turn to the right. As you come around this turn, you do want to mind that there are some few docks that stick out a little bit into the river here. Don't go so wild on going close to the shore that you bring those into play. They aren't very amenable to being run into. So this is a part of the course where the current really moves that buoy line around. So following the buoys closely is not necessarily the right thing to do. As we sit here, having negotiated the turn, you can see that there is an orange buoy well into the distance in front of us. And that's really the next turning station. So really following the middle of the river here is the right thing to do. You can go over to the buoy line. Again, it's just the separation. But the current kind of pulls that more over to port than you need to be. So your fastest course is probably to go straight for that orange buoy. It's essentially the middle of the river. And we'll go up there and show you why. Oops, we're in some wake now. Hang on.
Well,
okay, we hit some wake there because unlike tomorrow, the river's not closed today. And there was a big launch that went by. Tomorrow there should be no wake. That's on race day, and we're going to approach the next turning point, which is about 1,200 or 1,300 meters ahead of us, and that is an area where you do want to stay close to that turning buoy because there's some weeds that will come up if the water drops for any reason. It brings into play a shallower area where weeds will grow up and snag your rudder or your fin or whatever and cause you problems. So as you come up to this next turn, some 1,300 meters away, you're going to want to stay focused on that one buoy. We'll go there. We're going to go ahead pretty quickly upstream toward the next turn. You can see how we're kind of in the middle of the river. Off to my right is a big white house on the top of the hill, and off to the left is a smaller white structure that's a restaurant. We're kind of going in between those two. And we do want to stay focused on that orange buoy. There's a lot of room in here. You can go as far over as the yellow buoy line to the left if you like, and that won't necessarily be a problem. It might be a little farther. But the closer you get to this orange buoy, the more you want to be on that line, only because to the right of it, if we go over toward this shore over on the right side, we're going to bring into play some shallower water where weeds can grow up to the top and foul your rudder. Over on the side that the race course is set up, there shouldn't be any problem. And this turn that's coming up is a left turn. It's a turn to port. So we're gonna go over on that, closer to the buoy line and onto that buoy so you can see what that looks like. In this area, we're still clear of any, there is no real weed hazard over here, but I would not suggest going too much farther over to starboard than where we are. And then we've got kind of a 2 or 3 part turn here. We've got the big orange buoy, a 2-foot orange buoy, a small yellow line of buoys, and then the final turn of the course is that final orange buoy that you see, the 3rd orange buoy up there. So at that point, right here at this buoy, we're approximately 1,000 meters from the finish line at this yellow buoy, wherever it is, right there, or that red buoy, I mean. And then probably we're 800 or 900 meters when we get up to this turn. And you can see in the distance the finish line and run out area in the big red buoys up ahead. This is a nice straight shot through here. You can get over as close as you want to the yellow buoys, secure in the knowledge that nobody is going to cross over that line as they come back returning downstream. And we just follow this straight course right on up to the finish line. Leonie, let's go ahead and we'll take a run up to where the last 500 meters are. When the water is calm like this, it's fairly easy to see these smaller buoys. If the wind gets strong, it gets a little choppy, and under the glare of the sun, sometimes it's not so easy. But if you're over near the line, you could always see them somewhere. I mean, you can always see 1 or 2 of the buoys. Here we can see virtually all of them. This last part is usually pretty calm. It's the narrowest part of the river. Generally pretty protected from any wind. So it's a nice place to finish your sprint. And in case you're wondering how much farther you have to go, when the buoys turn to red buoys over here, you'll see the yellow line, and then it turns to red. The red buoys indicate you've got 500 meters to go. The buoys are 20 meters apart. It means that there are 25 red buoys left when you get here. That's 500 meters. So right now we're 500 meters from the finish line. The finish line is at New Haven Rowing Club. Excuse me for that zoom. There we go. That's a little bit better. This is what it looks like. We put a lot of width in the finishing areas, so if you have to pass, there's plenty of room to do it. Really doesn't matter what side you pass on, but Remember, the overtaking crew always has the right of way. If you are being overtaken, you must yield, and you have to yield to whichever way is indicated by where the crew has decided to overtake you. So if they're overtaking on your right side, you've got to move left. You'll see on the right there's a dock for New Haven Rowing Club. This first big buoy, it has a large F on it that means finish. That is the finish line. You'll see it's where the end of the little red buoys are. So this first big orange buoy that we're coming to at this end of the course, red buoys on the small line, and the finish line is the first orange buoy. There should be some kind of a horn or some kind of an indication that you've crossed the finish line. The finish line officials will be sitting up on the balcony of the New Haven Rowing Club over on this side of the river, in that building. And we can come up a little faster. That'd be okay. Yeah. This is the buoy that has the F on it for finish. And this is where the finish line judges will be up there, and they'll get your time. When you cross the finish line here, continue to paddle, otherwise we'll have a massive log jam. And you want to paddle up all the way past that third buoy that you see in the run out area. Just keep paddling, paddle past that buoy, and then you can turn and start back downstream. Some areas of the return lane are a little bit narrow, so be sure that you give room for crews that may be launching from the New Haven Boat Club area, and they may be going down to warm up. So there may be a few crews that are going down through the recovery area on a warm up. Just be aware of that. But we'll ask you to paddle out here to the last buoy and then loop around that buoy. And that should avoid any finish line congestion where people stop prematurely and end up having boats ram into them at full speed from behind. That's never a good look. So once we've completed our turn around this last run out buoy, it's about 300 meters past the finish line. There will be marshals all along the course. There's some 8 or 9 safety launches if anything goes wrong. And this is where we turn around to head back down in the return lane. And that's pretty much the course. The first part of the return lane going downstream is the narrowest part. So just use good judgment. Don't try to pass people if it's not necessary. And have a great race.